We'd begin our tale, as many do, in a nondescript playground built of concrete and glass, windows to a world so near to our own, but only so deep as to peer into an illusion of what the structure might hide beneath. Years and layers of bureaucracy built upon the unknown, and caught at the center of it all, one Jessie, so lost she can't tell if she's trying to find her way in or out. I'd spent my first spell of the game, not sure what to expect. Running into an IP blind is unfortunately not something I get to do every day, but if absolutely nothing else, this game knows how to set a tone. Meet Ahti. He's Ahti. A few things I know about him: he's a janitor, I'm gonna be his new assistant, and he has great taste in music. If you're at all interested in experiencing this game though, a large part of me, despite knowing it's actively bad for the channel, wants to say this might be where you want to get off the ride. Early, I know, but there's some great things in here, and I can gush about it all I want, but I can't do justice to the piece of art before me. Not like it can. Heading into the office of the man who runs the circus, I'd find him deceased. Then, things got weird. While I can't say I was a fan of having to use force push in a primarily force yeet run, it can't really be helped. Tutorials and all, but man does Jessie pack a punch. For the record, I did try to avoid it. It didn't work. Turns out jumping ain't quite in the cards yet. Anyway, returning to whatever this reality is, standing above the corpse of the guy arguably responsible for the kidnapping of my brother that I've been looking for entirely too long is not a great look. What is a great look, though, is this game in general. It tends to be almost impossible to point to a singular moment that makes you fall in love with something. Here's where Control convinced me. You know, never mind, actually. I think I'm just gonna stay in the office with the dead guy. In short order, would be forced into melee range with guards of the lost their minds variety. Fun stuff. Things were falling apart, and it's not just me this time. But I can't say they're particularly a threat to my health or safety. It would more or less continue with that theme until things got really red. All under an inverted pyramid, where there was a dude who was tougher. Powered by an eldritch horror force called the Hiss. It may not be a good name, but I got a good promotion. Been here, what, half an hour, max? I'm already the director of the place. I didn't even get a chance to fill out a job application, which is really unfortunate because they filled me with a whole lot of bullets instead. If you believe it though, that was still preferable and more survivable than the alternative. Their melee is really strong. Luckily, while I may not be able to eat it, I certainly deal in a lot of cheese. By virtue of the voice in my head that grants me magical powers of vaguely eldritch nature, allowing me to combat the magical powers of vaguely eldritch nature surrounding me, I was able to cause interior decorating of epic proportions. Inside a definitely not Vault-Tec vault, I rescued some employees that were realistically probably better off inside, and while I really want to stress that I genuinely love this game, the character models are mostly really uncanny. Take Emily here. She's so bright, so chipper. The world is falling down around us, and she's so smiley. On the one hand, it feels like she's wanting to be welcoming to her new boss. On the other hand, if you're confused, so was I. So am I, and I'm leaving out a lot fewer details than you might think. Her being rather ambiguously threatening played really nicely with the overall themes, and I struggled to pin down just how I feel about it. She was at least fairly helpful though, putting a finer point on the fact that I shouldn't be physically able to be here, let alone without the safety devices wrapped around everybody but me that were recently built to protect against the hiss. Personally, I'm partial to audio filters for that sort of thing, but what do I know? It's just my job. Anyway, since nothing has been able to truly stop Jessie thus far, the next part of the plan, of course, was to just cure the whole floating thing that people had going on. It didn't exactly work. It could have worked less well, but to say the effort was fruitless would be an understatement. I will say though, if I had one complaint about the game, it's navigation. Shocking, I know, but the oldest house confuses the hell out of me, and the map doesn't help. For the record, that's the name of the building I'm in, going along with other names like my hometown of Ordinary. Some goofy names. That one isn't a complaint so much as an observation. Inside this place of ours are many occupational hazards. This one in particular just kind of throws things at you. Of all the things in all the world to grant me use of the Force though, why not a floppy disk? Puzzle solving will look like this, and as I'd guess you'd be able to surmise, combat is going to look a lot like this. No more melee, and of course, never gun. Just this. All the while, I'm spurred on by the board. For who and what they are, basically think every other corporate overlord except they wield powers beyond the comprehension of the average person and are at best helping people for their own gain. Wait, that's just every other corp. With my new powers in hand, or I suppose more accurately out of hand, things changed pretty dramatically. Didn't have to run my face into a wall of bullets to get by, which was a huge improvement, and also it was just really fun to use. And generally speaking, I'd say it goes beyond fun, it's satisfying. For the next game, I would love to see even more powers implemented, like maybe a higher quality map, because that would sound magical. And I know it's a skill issue, but I don't know how to develop it. It's nebulous and ironically hard to navigate. It tends to be a good sign though when you're getting new cutscenes, and even better when they're introducing new spooky boys. This one's all floaty like the random bodies, but also aggressive. Currently, I can only really throw 2 things consecutively before getting really tired. Kinda weak. I can throw way more than 2 things in real life before getting tired. She's also using magical powers to throw things, which should be way easier. Please pay no mind to the fact that my current magical throw count is 0. Anyway, I bring this up largely because the floaty boys are pretty okay at dodging. Sometimes. They tend to not get hit the first time, but they run out of steam even faster than Jesse and get clocked by whatever comes next. Kinda funny in the sense that they're worse than Valve, they can't even count to 2. In terms of their own attacks, did they attack me? Did I murder a defenseless... Oh, no, never mind. They throw things too, I'm morally in the clear. Not only are they attacking me, but they're plagiarists, also known as the scum of the earth. Oh look, they're a coward too. I'm sure they'll never see any such enemy like this again. Definitely not a standard experience from here on out. In classic fashion, I blatantly ignored instructions and then fell off of a cliff, which if you're new here is basically a summary of my entire channel. Also, hi. Hello. Welcome on in. Now, we may be looking for a hotline, but we're definitely not in Miami. I can't say I've done a lot of traveling, but this certainly doesn't look like any motel I've ever seen. Or maybe it does. I'm not actually sure I've seen the inside of one. But we'll be coming back here a good handful of times, and it was always a treat to figure out what puzzle was going on. Through the power of an old landline, I'd have a conversation in the form of a short obstacle course while running from a creature that can't be harmed in-game, but can absolutely cause people prone to motion sickness harm out of game. It gets all wibbly. I did also get to have a one-sided conversation out of the deal with the guy who last filled my role, and I definitely had no part in the killing of. You can prove nothing, because it didn't happen. Sitting back down with Emily, we'd talk about a fair few things. Strategies moving forward, how to contact the people my predecessor trusted to handle these sorts of things, run some tests on me to see how I'm still alive, give some spooky janitor time, you know. Typical conversations. Due to, you know, things, there were a lot of security things in place. Most importantly, direct access to anywhere was out of the question, so I had to fight my way to Ahti via some damage upgrades I picked up along the way. If I wasn't before, and I definitely was, but were I not, then I promise that I am feeling it now, Mr. Krabs. Couldn't throw any more than 2, but those 2 were hitting harder than they had any right to. And we have so much upgrading to do! Despite not needing resources and also having played the Souls series, I fell for one of the most classic blunders. It is poetic, in a sense, that the astral area to head to the merry-go-round horses was an incredibly straight line. Following that theme, I can now dash in straight lines, much like a specific Kinect game, and before you ask, no, I have no plans to play that one for the channel or otherwise. Ignoring literally everything else about it, it had crashing issues that I refuse to engage with. Back on this title, there's something kind of hilarious to me about this image, literally, and how it leads from a poster to the real man. I'm not sure why, but I'm amazed by the fact that this game is capable of balancing between power fantasy, horror, and comedy. Genuinely funny and heartfelt comedy. Anyway, Ahti, the legend that he is offering assistance in the form of advice, such as how to avoid blowing up the whole building via some maintenance. Talking in circles, riddles, and generally vague sayings, much like a lot of folks here. But he's so goddamn charming while he does it. Sir, it's nice to hear that you're chief of security and all, but you barely seem to recognize the name and face of your new boss. You really should have been briefed about this. Now, on the one hand, I got a new upgrade that'll let me hit a motherfucker with another motherfucker. On the other hand... No, actually, that's it. I'm pleased. I'm just pleased. Like a good little worker drone, though, I did my job. I'm not sure how things were so close to up and running, and yet so far. Like, y'all couldn't just plug these things in? What's the director up to? You know, blowing off some steam. Please ignore the scalding. So we got to work burning some questionable barrels for our local janitor friend.
I'm breaking some environmental regulations on waste disposal, but if that's what Ahti wants, then I'll get it done.
Honestly, Jesse, if you're just gonna make basically the exact commentary I was going to, why don't you at least let me know beforehand so I don't waste my time showing up? Frankly, rude. Disrespectful, even. Okay, so here I am past the weird cave-looking places and whatnot, deep into the bowels or what have you of this massive labyrinthian structure. I'm here trying to get the coolant working, which is important in any institution. I certainly don't like overheating, but in this case, it's a matter of life and death for everyone and everything nearby. By all accounts, this building is full of magical rubbish capable of threatening the planet as a whole. The entire point is, of course, to control such things. The hiss, the eldritch force that threatens us, would almost certainly survive a detonation of the full locale and just seep into the world and reality as a whole. But importantly, it seems to harbor a sort of intelligence. Were it to destroy this place, it'd be out basically the greatest resources it could possibly have access to, which is a really dumb play. And also, spoilers ahead, the more frustrating part, maybe unsurprisingly, the method by which it entered this plane at all is here. If it wants to travel to other universes, and I think it does, them hissing in my general direction seems like one of those bad plays. Paid zero attention to the whole enemy of my enemy thing. Nobody else here is an even remotely credible threat to it. I don't know why it's hellbent on blowing the place up. Ahti refers to a clog as his old enemy. Is it because it's plumbing? Is it because he's a powerful but strange being that is not to be questioned, and he's referring to the creature through a sort of silly fashion? I don't know, but it's conceptually funny to me either way. This game leaves a lot open to interpretation, and I often don't know what's right, but I like it. Also, it killed me. Now, realistically, when it comes to enemy variety, I'm an awful judge. Similar to music and games, I don't tend to even notice personally unless it's outstandingly good or egregiously bad. Now, I think the variety in this game is arguably one of its weaker points. This guy here represents a new class of enemy, of which there are few. But remarkably, they're used pretty well. I don't know. I'm curious what the consensus is here. Nothing super complex, but their increasing numbers did still make for a fantastic experience throughout. Just something I noticed. And now, in the grand scheme of things, I know for a fact this is a gripe about nothing, but everybody makes fun of my aim. And you know what nobody does? Nobody explains this. How does this turn into this? These two frames do not equal what happened. Explain, game. Make this make sense. But as bothersome as that might be, this really is a barrel of fun. I threw a lot of things. How many, you might wonder? Over the course of the playthrough, the number was 1,626. Thanks, as always, of course, to our stat cat Ivy for going over, frankly, far too many numbers. In addition to almost stitched numbers, they're also the reason I know we had over 18% that in just melee attacks. Which doesn't sound like much, but that was just from the intro portion. And the reason I know I died 26 times throughout, which sounds a lot lower than I thought playing it. I may not be the most musically inclined, but I do like to set the stage. Let's call this a pebble clef. I'm here to get a handle on the control room, override some things, you know, fitting for the game as a whole. For some irony, when I booted the game, I couldn't control it at all. Specifically, my controller just straight up did nothing. After dying in this room, the game crashed. Now I'm in a cutscene unable to do anything about getting shot and beaten. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but we lost control. Irony stings like a death that was completely out of my hands. Also, behold, the only real use for this gun, beyond, I guess, getting projections of a dead man sometimes to give me cryptic hints like everything else does. You'd think that would bother me, and it does. But also I love it. Life is confusing. Much like this obstacle course they had me running. Was it necessary? Probably not, but it took a handful of tries with my slow regen, and I enjoy the struggle. The one more try feeling that comes with getting incrementally better at something. I also tend to be amused by seeing games not function correctly, so I was really happy to hear it do this bit here. Also, while this place will be giving me a shield, I heard they engender passivity or something. Poison swamps, random mimics, you know. Or maybe you don't, in which case you can find a full essay on it from a person who almost understood pathologic. There's something to be said, though, about wandering off the beaten path, which is made worse when there is no path and the map sucks. You get to doing dumb things like asking questions. How dangerous could it be? Turns out dangerous enough for the game to start affecting you. Oh no, you fell down. Oh no, little baby fell down. Oh no, you fell down. And you don't get back up again. I blame the game for that. After some time and a lot of corpses lying in my wake, Emily should maybe be filled in on what and who she's dealing with. This whole time, Jessie's magical powers of a vaguely eldritch nature were actually granted to her by a being of vaguely eldritch nature. It turns out, Jessie wasn't a Jedi at all. She's a warlock. I was informed that there are also some other beings in the Bureau's records that would suggest there are some similar things in here, either to me or my patron. Hard to say which. Everything's always behind red tape, but apparently I've got a marshal to seek out. You know, in all of my training, I was told I had 2 options and I could choose either. But I choose or. I do hope, though, that this won't bar other solutions. Following themes, there's something really imposing about having a parade of explosive enemies lumbering toward you while you're waiting for your energy to regenerate. Knowing between throws, you're more or less helpless. Against missiles, though, ironically, they really just don't have to hit their targets. It's a beautiful thing. After skipping over a seizure-inducing section with an invulnerable ball-based foe, to then come across a completely unrelated ball-based foe that's also a medic, explaining this game feels like trying to piece together bits of madness. It is interesting, though, sometimes, when this game starts to look like a third-person shooter. Look, there's cover everywhere, high and low ground, enemies on opposing points, clearly made to combat whichever ground you should personally prioritize. Just imagine if this game had guns or something. I'm sure that'd be neat. Now, this little venture was arguably one of those rule breaks. Assuming we're sticking to yoinks and yeets, going for theming, we're arguably using a Jedi mind trick. Or I guess maybe just something from the enchantment school. Either way, the main enemy here is invulnerable to damage I can deal, so instead I had to throw some of our allies at them. So it kinda works, depending on really precise amounts of thought put toward it. Otherwise, it's just a matter of slapping mobs around with projectiles till their health is low, then sending them the way of the golden copy. Easy stuff. Far less, making phone calls. I'm not sure what it is about talking directly to strangers, but it's horrifying. It's funny in a sense because conceptually, the worst possible case isn't that bad. In this one, it's literally being under attack by a mob for having made a call. No part of me thinks this is even somewhat realistic, and yet I have such a visceral reaction to the real thing. Ominously staring at Marshall, I would find that things were also bad here, shocking literally no one, especially her. She's pretty chill about goings-on. Gotta say though, if you really don't like red, then this game must be an absolute nightmare. I'm at least reasonably confident that the color is used better, but it's hard to see through bias, and I can't help but wonder if such a person would feel the same way about this that I do about the first Borderlands and its use of brown. Everything is just really dull shades of brown, and it's an exhausting color palette. Much like this poor enemy type is getting all exhausted carrying a little tornado. Turns out once they drop it, they're really vulnerable to large objects being thrown at their heads. It's a totally unique trait that they have, never before seen or heard of. We got some fairly basic puzzling, match symbols to numbers as told by the environmental... Can they be called clues if they're just the solution? I don't know. Turns out the devices aren't working regardless, and Marshall isn't telling me anything until I get it up and running. She's also really disrespectful of chosen names. Basic decency is free, you ass. Now, to be entirely fair, we are trying to save a lot of people by getting the machine going. Get more of them protectory devices like the ones that folks are wearing. I could see why someone would find that to be rather urgent, and prioritizing that over the brother they kidnapped is a bit messed up, but also pretty reasonable. What's not reasonable is to insist on calling me by something other than my chosen name in a war zone. I'm the only thing standing between you lot and painful, agonizing death. Maybe, just maybe, show a sliver of respect. You're lucky I'm mildly more pragmatic than I am petty. Also, true story, I asked Discord what I should play this go-around. The most selected option was, and I quote, a game about chickens. I will not elaborate. After multiple hours of chickening, we came to the conclusion that the run was likely possible, but wouldn't be fun for literally anyone involved. So this was the runner-up, and who's laughing now? If you look really closely, there is one image of at least 2 chickens. We did it. They're the only ones in the game that I found, but that still counts. Listen, if you haven't played this game, I can't possibly explain this in any way that would do it justice without taking entirely too long, so suffice to say, this section had me asking what the hell I was playing, while also loving every moment of it. This is less of a game and more of an experience. A fever dream of an experience that I'd absolutely recommend if you're up for some unapologetic weirdness, and if you've listened to me for long enough to get this far, then I think we both know whether or not that's the case. On the way to my destination, I, as was often the case, got into a bit of a scuffle with the locals. It's not much of one, but it was by definition a conflict, no matter how one-sided. I might have gotten just a wee bit stronger with the upgrades I picked up along the way. What in the OSHA violation is the purpose of this safety standard forsaken room? You know, the amenities in this place aren't that great. I don't know if it was worth the revisit. I should have booked somewhere else. Actually, on second thought, I'd like to go back to the motel. Why, hello, security man. I'm here to reinforce my character's sense of self-doubt and hear once more about a man named Salvador, who apparently has the respect of a lot of people here. Unlike an enemy type that I genuinely forgot about. It just kind of shows up, takes most of my health, and then dies really easily. Weird little spot in the ecosystem it's got. Evidently, though, something was really getting to Jessie. Like, really getting to her. This is not an okay thing to be feeling, let alone verbalizing. Coping with the situation is good. Learning to love being in danger physically or otherwise is not, especially when endangering others. Don't do that. There are better hobbies, better ways to spend your time, ones that make it more likely for you to have more of said time. Also, Jesus, if you think this is how the world should be, please seek help. You should absolutely not be wishing this on others, let alone on a world scale. Jessie, the hell? Pushing on past that, gravity throughout this whole place has more or less just been a suggestion. Sure, there's fall damage, but it's easily canceled via air dashes, so really it's just kind of here. I don't want to alarm anybody, but I think we might be in rock country. I'm more of a metal person, but I hear this is her genre. Or element, even. When all else fails, though, she's a hell of a boxer. It's over, random non-ranged enemies. I have the high ground. And also psychic powers. It's mostly the second one. My god, this game is pretty. Also, astigmatism. It's like looking at a light in real life, but less blurry. I need to go see an eye doctor. I need to go get an eye doctor. All in due time. Guys, I can promise no amount of graveling at my feet will help your situation. You can put your quarry to rest, or quarrel to an end. I will rock you. Getting things out of here after, though, that part kind of blows. Ironically blown too is also the joke that there was an explosion. You didn't see it because it was a couple of really bright flashes, but an overall really disappointing boom. You're not missing out on much. It allowed us to get an extra special crystal. I'd poke fun at the idea of a rock having magical properties that can withstand the other magic we're pumping into it due to the more modern setting, but it's not exactly a grounded setting. This is entirely in line with fantasy, which is exactly what this is. Getting back, and after getting safety device manufacturing up and running, I found out that my 17-year estranged bro is indeed here. And they're not very in favor of taking responsibility for his kidnapping. It's funny how you can just change words to make it sound like you didn't take a child against their will and by your own admission groom him for your purposes. That's messed up. Medical wing, huh? Well, that's good. Hey guys, you're in the right place! Catch! So, I'm not going to explain why this is one of my favorite visits to the hotel, because if you know, I'm sure you know, I'm off to find Dylan. Along the way, in a building full of nightmares, I found the biggest asshole in the place, which is saying a lot, but this guy is a horrible boss. Like, for instance, the fact that this man has abandoned and forgotten his lone employee that's stopping an eldritch fridge by nonstop staring at it. The poor guy needs help that isn't coming because his soup can't be bothered to remember he exists. Screw the monsters. Awful leadership is both incredibly real and evil. I've yet to work for a boss I didn't hate, and self-employment has done nothing to fix that. Oh. Also, while the visuals here are amazing, they did lose my brother. Also, I found Salvador. For the fight, imagine the regularly tornado guys, but he's named Salvador. Honestly, he was really underwhelming for how much I heard about the guy. He wasn't even accompanied by Harold. Too easy, I say. Just kept using a twister. So for the fight, I'll chuck a chunk at a chucklefuck who ran out of luck when he was let free, a face so bold and exposed like he could test me, but out on this killing spree, all he could be was reduced to paste, now he's a mess to clean. Also, now, literally by the magic of television, I can fly. If Extended Universe wasn't enough for you, I'm pretty sure Disney made flight canon. But, I don't know. I can't even pretend to try to keep up with all the films and shows coming out. The MCU was mostly mid. Both Infinity War and Endgame were incredibly overhyped. People act like the films got bad over time when they just kind of started out that way. I have to ask though, how did anyone think this place was gonna hold Dylan? There's not a hole in the wall to escape from because there isn't a wall for there to be a hole in. This isn't how you manage security. Apparently, though, the game got sick of me throwing things, because as far as I can tell, it started doing it by itself. Frankly, rude. I finally got around to when I was allowed to help the guy with the fridge, and despite my expertise in the area, not even I could assist. I was too late and went inside to do battle with whatever this is. I'm gonna level with you, aside from the map issues, my biggest complaint about this game is that I didn't get more things like this. I realize that more is very likely achievable through side content, but if the abomination on screen isn't enough to convince you, I don't know what is. This is amazing. I'll throw a thing at every foe of mine and watch them go from living to dead. It's the best they'll find, that they can do when put to pace with a taste of this guest-turned-director, no lead, only master of this masonry, where the place to be is anywhere but her wake. Debris turned to viscera, drenched in this red nectar. It's the last mistake they'd make should they upset her. No exceptions. Now, I just want to make sure I've got this straight. Dylan, who is possessed by the hiss, but only kind of, who broke out of containment, only to turn himself over, who's floating menacingly in my general direction between conversations, is here now and is resentful of me and my relatively charmed life after we were separated 17 years ago? That was his whole plan? The entirety of events? Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. You could say they really threw away their relationship! Also, he can see the being that's helped me thus far. The Force, if you will. First among anyone, and he does not like Polaris, which is the name of said thing. I don't know, it just never seemed relevant. Spending a lot of time lost and fighting, which, I mean, I'd choose lost and struggling, but either one could probably work for my biography. Anyway, despite, or maybe because of the weird architecture, I was looking through the place by suggestion, or arguably demand, of Dylan for information on the both of us, as kept by the not SCP Foundation. Turns out, I didn't get away from them as a kid when he was taken. Or at least, not really. They've been trailing me the whole time, keeping tabs, controlling him from near and me from afar. Frankly, I don't see how I could ever trust them again, given the circumstances, keeping some incredibly important information from me. Is it fair to take my frustration out on you, random guy? No. But what are you gonna do about it? I mean, it's not like they're... Right! Lack of health upgrades. Really living that glass cannon lifestyle. Among things that could have been mentioned previously, a scale replica of my town that pretty quickly proved inaccurate due to definitely not my actions. I blame the mini kaiju that showed up. It's their fault. Man, this place is a dump. Literally. I don't know how to say this, but they didn't just take a dump. They took my dump. What a garbage thing to do. Trash people all around. And just because they wanted to collect it for research and understanding the devastating universe-altering events that occurred to the two of us when we were kids to better control the situation for the good of humanity. Actually, I don't know. I think these folks might be in the right. I didn't want to do it, but I had to fight my way back through the place. Things were looking a lot worse for wear, even the motel having its own set of issues all over again. I was kind of just slipping through reality. Granted, same could be said for the whole game. And while I was gonna have to do something bad to accomplish my goal, I did get to throw 3 forklifts at once at a guy. And in what world can you throw 3 forklifts in a bad game? Come on. Truth be told, this is about where the game hit a hell of a stride for me. I wanted to be challenged more. And this never really fulfilled that. Never pushed me as hard as I wanted. Having enemies flooding into the place, though, it was great. I was often on the verge of death, having to use my environment and movement to not keel over, causing me to panic, making bad choices, miss throws. I love that. Something that wasn't nearly as common as I would have hoped. Had I but a word to describe this firefight in particular, I would say frantic. Where enemy variety be damned, it just felt good. Smooth, flowing, chaotic, visceral, and I was absolutely here for every moment of it. Literally, I'm recording this voiceover in the same spot that I was playing. Also figuratively, because it was incredibly fun. Now, if it was so great, why did I not want to do these things? Simple. I wasn't just killing a whole lot of hiss-infused foes. I was seeking Ahti. And while he's always fantastic to see, as I see a vision rising dreary, I had to interrupt his vacation to do it. Sorry, buddy, but I'm here to ask you for a favor. I need you to take control. Now, if you know, you absolutely know. If you don't, then you are really missing out not playing it yourself, because what followed was simply math. What happens when you take an already really solid game and slap on some fantastic music? Oh, I don't know, it'd be hard to think of any other examples. But with the hot wind blowing through this battle, the war still rages within. Jesse's come this far, gone through so many trials, fighting this collective consciousness. The stains of time only glow brighter under the light shed by the red sun that rips us from quiet, peaceful, dark skies that now threaten to make us return to ashes. It wasn't long ago that I appeared in the lives of the people for which I now fight, but they can't reach me here. They could never truly reach me, so despite being their savior, to them, a stranger I remain. Alone, bruised and bloodied in an endless arena where only the rules of nature apply. But a soul can't be cut, and chains can be broken. Tethered across a lifetime by an accident all those years ago, I'm my own master now. It's my choice how to live. I'm going to make it my own, even if it has to be this way. If only there were another clear example in gaming. You may of course surmise I'm just a sucker for fun action set to metal, and the only thing I know for real is that you're goddamn right I am. Also, the completely unapologetic stylization of the game hit a really fun note with the visuals and tones so thoroughly pulling the level design into the mix. The mostly grounded nature of the locale falling away to whimsical and weird, the sparing nature of it made the truly odd hit all the harder, and I love that about it. At the end of the labyrinth was my patron in all their glory. A big polygonal shape capable of immense power and destruction. If dice have taught me anything though, it's that they enable horrifying things from twisted minds. Speaking of though, I'm not a fan of how Dylan is looking at things in general. Seems like me coming here at all was a ruse. A method by which my patron could be located and killed. No dice jail in the world could protect them from the onslaught of enemies I've been able to defeat. And some laser pointers. Please pay no mind to the fact that the hiss as a whole is probably doing background things to foreground attack. It is still conceptually funny that these beings are even at risk via just hucking things, but here we are, doing that. Like, sure, I'm vulnerable to the same, but I feel like I get a pass. Turns out Polaris definitely isn't getting one though, unless you mean passing into the afterlife. I do believe that is what we call suboptimal. Yeah, this isn't exactly a good time, and that's Control. Neat game. Good job, everybody. Round up next week, where I will be the best office worker this side of this 5x5 square in this particular office. Things got really weird really quickly, which is saying a lot. Turns out the old boss got by the hiss and unleashed it on the world. And I refuse to spoil it, but this is on the list of my favorite moments in games in a hot minute. I can't stress enough, this is a ride you should take on your own if you've got the time and opportunity. I don't think they stand a chance, but I admire that they're bolder than those that didn't try. It turns out that the real magical powers of a vaguely eldritch nature were inside me all along. The game mirrors itself with her starting by saying she's not a director type, before eventually accepting the inverse. She once relied on a god, and I mean, what else do you call her now? I accidentally discovered that I was able to target up to 3 enemies at once in the second to last throw of the whole game, because that's how observant I'm not. And after fighting the ironically buggy controls, I was able to cure Dylan in the same way I tried at the beginning of the venture. Meaning all the people I exploded along the way could have been saved, but it's too late now. Control would come to a close with us finally getting a handle on the situation. Gotta say, a fun first playthrough and a pretty good experience to do in one sitting. I'm not gonna pretend I fully grasp the plot, but God, what a ride. I only wish that I had a bigger takeaway other than in saying I think the greatest success it achieves is that it's completely unapologetic. This game is itself. It's not sorry for it. It's weird, it's wild, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I hope you've enjoyed your time here. I'd like to thank my lovely channel members, as well as Twitch subscribers for your support. I hope you find the time to find yourself wandering over whatever the self may be, unafraid to explore it with reckless abandon, because if nothing else, I think projects like this prove pretty effectively that while there's definitely gray area, I think if you find yourself feeling unadored, unloved, you probably just haven't found the right crowd yet. There's an audience for damn near anything, and I'd hate to see such an experience watered down to unrecognizability. It may be cliche, but you know, it's cliche for a reason. Be yourself. Because you're the best goddamn you that anyone could ever be. And the world would be worse without it. You probably know how to use social media, and I hope that means I'll get to hear your thoughts now and in future outings. Until then, remember to stay safe, spread some kindness in the world, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.